Okay, so just to give you a quick recap of normalization, so you need to understand a few of the terms before starting. First of all, you should know regarding functional dependency. So what is functional dependency? For example, if A and B are attributes of a relation, B is functionally dependent on A if each value of B is associated in relation with exactly one value of B in R. So if we have to look at example, like see this graph shows that B is functionally dependent on A. So if you look at example, for example, if we have staff number and position, each staff number has one position. But if we reverse it, position, for each position there can be multiple staff numbers. So this is not functionally dependent. So staff number is not functionally dependent on position. However, position is functionally dependent on staff number. Like I also mentioned in my previous example that this is true only where staff can take one position. However, in our scenario, like in university, one instructor can be assistant professor or associate professor, and he also can be HOD. So in that case, it is not possible. So in functional dependencies, there are two things. One is partial functional dependency, one is full functional dependency. Full functional dependency is normally when you have on the left side you have only one attribute, and the right side there can be multiple attributes, but normally on the left hand side there is only one attribute. Partial function dependency means if we have a composite attribute or a composite key on the left side, so you have to remember this. If you don't have any composite key on the left side, then it is not partially dependent. Then there won't be need of partial dependency. That will be full functional dependency. So if we have two fields here, and if we remove one of them, like if we remove name, it will still be functionally dependent. So this means partial functional dependency. So partial functional dependency indicates that if A and B are attributes of a relation, B is partially functionally dependent on A if B is functionally dependent on any proper subset of A. So in transitive dependency, if you remember the rule, if A is equals to B and B is equals to C, so A is equals to C. So here, if we have, for example, if you look at the examples, staff name, position, salary, branch number, address, these are functionally dependent on staff number. Branch address is functionally dependent on branch number. So we can say branch address is transitively dependent on staff number. So this is basically explanation of transitive dependency. So normally there are 5 forms, but we in this course we'll study first normal form, second normal form, and third normal form. There is the data originally is in unnormalized normal form (UNF). So if the table contains one or more repeating groups or there are multiple records, so that indicates basically unnormalized form. For example, if you have one student and you have stored multiple skills for that student in one table or in one record, so that is like unnormal form. There are multiple repeating groups. So if you have this lease paper and if you translate into tables, so if you see for CR76 there are multiple records, for CR56 there are multiple records. So this is unnormalized normal form. So in first normal form, a relation in which intersection of each row and column contains only one value. There should be only one value, not multiple values. So this is the approach. So you can use this approach to first normal form. So for second normal form, if you have this record, for example, second normal form is based on the concept of full functional dependency. Second normal form, remember, applies only to the relation with composite key. So it means if your table doesn't contain a composite key, it is already in second normal form. So you have to remove all the partial dependencies from the table. So for example, the partial dependency identified earlier has to be removed from the table. So we have now 3 tables: client, rental, and property owner. So in third normal form, you have to remove transitive dependencies, or in simple way you can say, or in simple words you can say, each attribute should depend on the primary key. So for example, if you look at here, property address depends on property number, rent depends on property number, owner number depends on property number. However, owner name depends more on owner number. So we'll remove owner name from the table and the records become so this is the output of normalization. So after applying first normal form, second normal form, third normal form, we have these records.